Did you know that in the heart of the Sonoran Desert, the scorching sun killed people much faster than the bitterest nighttime cold? To the average person, such conditions seem like certain death, but the Apache warriors turned this unforgiving environment into their home. They developed unique survival techniques that allowed them to conserve their strength and keep a clear mind even at 50 degrees in the shade. These people didn't just endure the heat, they learned to use the laws of nature to their advantage. Every detail of their daily life was dedicated to a single goal: achieving maximum efficiency with minimal energy expenditure. The secrets of their endurance still amaze modern researchers of extreme climates. Watch the video to the end, and you'll learn the true cost of survival in the fiery hell of Sonora and how the Apaches found coolness where others saw only death. What if I told you that everything you believed about surviving in the desert is actually a dangerous misconception? The Apaches perceived the world around them not as a hostile void, but as a complex and wise system of living mechanisms. They understood that fighting the desert was pointless and led only to the depletion of the body's last internal resources. Instead of open confrontation, these warriors chose the path of complete harmony with the rhythms of the earth and the scorching sun. Nature dictated the rules to them, and they simply obeyed these ancient laws of the parched landscape. Silence and stillness were their greatest allies during those hours when the air began to shimmer from the unbearable heat. Every movement in conditions of extreme heat was carefully considered and performed with the utmost caution. Excessive fuss or unwarranted haste could lead to overheating and the fatal loss of precious moisture. The Apaches learned to control their breathing, making it deep and measured so as not to dry out their lungs. They knew that anger and fear quicken the heartbeat and raise the body's internal temperature. Self-control was as vital a tool to them as a sharp knife or a sturdy bow. The art lay in remaining calm at the very center of a raging thermal storm. The Sonoran Desert, with its giant cacti and rocky plateaus, was a great teacher of humility to them. In such conditions, a person realizes their true insignificance in the face of the endless and mighty forces of nature. The Apaches never tried to subjugate the land. They strove to be its worthy inhabitants. This deep respect for the forces of nature shaped their character and survival tactics. Pride and self-confidence quickly faded under the sun's rays, leaving room only for pure and cold calculation. Only those who acknowledged their powerlessness before the sun could hope for its mercy. Life in the desert demanded absolute honesty from a warrior toward himself and his capabilities. A false assessment of one's strength in 50-degree heat led to irreparable consequences within a matter of hours. The Apaches cultivated within themselves the ability to soberly assess every step taken and every sip of water consumed. They understood the fragility of human life and did everything to strengthen it through discipline. This inner fortitude was invisible, yet it was the most reliable protection against the scorching external heat. Every morning they prepared for a battle against the heat, a battle that could not be won by the force of weapons. I wonder how such a harsh philosophy of life is perceived in different corners of our vast and diverse world. Write about it in the comments because your opinion is extremely important for understanding this profound topic. Share your thoughts on whether you could find peace in such a silent and scorching environment. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new, captivating stories about the incredible power of the human spirit. We continue to uncover the secrets of ancient peoples who learned to live in harmony with the harshest regions of the planet. Many more amazing discoveries await us, ones that will change your perception of human potential. Are you ready to learn the truth about how the Apache used the earth itself to cool their bodies in the heat of the day? When air temperatures rose to critical levels, open spaces became deadly for any living creature. The Apache knew that just a few dozen centimeters below the surface, the soil remained much cooler. They utilized this natural insulator by digging special sleeping pits in shaded areas beneath rocks. These depressions served as unique havens of coolness in an ocean of scorching sand and dry air. A properly prepared pit could lower the temperature around the body by 10 or even 15 degrees. Preparing such a resting place required knowledge of soil composition and the direction of the shadows. The Apaches chose areas with dense soil that warmed more slowly under direct sunlight. They carefully removed the top layer of scorching sand to reach the moister, cooler layers of earth. The inner surface of the pit was sometimes lined with fresh shrub branches or grass, if they could be found nearby. This created an additional air layer that promoted better air circulation around the motionless body. The warrior would lie down in such a depression, trying to make as much contact as possible with the cool ground. Interestingly, the Apaches used these same pits at night when the desert cooled sharply to low temperatures. At night, the ground began to release the heat it had accumulated during the day, warming the sleeping warrior from below. This reverse process helped them survive the cold hours, when temperatures could drop to 5 degrees. Thus, the same pit functioned as an air conditioner during the day and as a heating pad at night. Nature itself provided them with all the necessary tools to maintain a comfortable existence in an extreme climate. The skill lay solely in correctly understanding these physical processes and using them at the right time. The Apaches did not use soft bedding or pillows, preferring the firm and reliable support of the earth. This promoted proper spinal alignment and complete relaxation of all muscle groups during sleep. Upon waking, the warrior felt refreshed and ready for new, long treks across rough terrain. They believed that the earth gave them its strength and took away all accumulated fatigue and illness. This deep physical interaction with the soil was the foundation of their incredible endurance and health. The desert was, for them, a vast living organism with which they were in constant tactile contact. In the absence of shade, they could even use the roots of large cacti to create protective barriers. Desert vegetation served not only as a source of food, but also as an important building material for temporary shelters. The Apaches treated every bush with care, understanding its role in the overall system of sustaining life. Do you think a modern person could sleep for several hours in an earthen pit without the usual comforts? Share your opinion. Do you consider this technique justified in today's heat? This method seems simple, but it requires a deep understanding of the laws of physics and heat transfer. How many of us are capable of sensing the needs of our bodies and the possibilities of the environment with such subtlety? The Apaches proved that true luxury is not a soft bed, but a breath of cool air in the scorching desert. In the next chapter, we'll discuss how the Apache fought thirst by tapping into nature's hidden reservoirs. Are you ready to learn new details about how the Apache found moisture where others saw only dry sand? I will reveal the most closely guarded secret of how Apache warriors created a zone of artificial coolness around themselves. They used the phenomenon of evaporative cooling, which allowed them to feel comfortable even at the hottest midday. To do this, they wrapped their bodies in pieces of damp leather or water-soaked cloth. The process of moisture evaporation from the material's surface drew excess heat directly from the person's skin. This created an ice shield effect that blocked the scorching desert air and prevented the body from overheating. These wraps required periodic replacement, but their effectiveness was simply astonishing. Special attention was paid to protecting the head and neck, where major blood vessels run. The Apache wore special headdresses made of animal hides, which were kept constantly damp. The cooled blood circulating in the upper body helped maintain a normal body temperature throughout the entire body. This method allowed them to maintain clear thinking and sharp vision in conditions where others suffered from heat stroke. Wet bandages on the wrists and ankles also contributed to the overall cooling of the circulatory system. Each of these clothing items was part of a complex engineering system for managing heat flow. The source of moisture for these purposes could be not only drinking water, but also the juices of certain desert plants. The Apaches knew which cacti contained large amounts of liquid suitable for external use. They carefully cut open the plant's thick husks to extract the moist pulp and soak their bandages in it. This allowed them to conserve their supply of clean water, which was vital for maintaining bodily functions. The desert provided them with everything they needed. They just had to be able to see these hidden possibilities. The skill lay in using every resource to the maximum benefit for overall survival. Listening, this same method was also used to cool food supplies during short stops. The food was wrapped in wet hides and placed in the shade, where the constant breeze created a refrigerator-like effect. This allowed the game to stay fresh for several days, even in extreme temperatures. The Apaches had no technical tools, but their understanding of the laws of thermodynamics was impeccable. They used the energy of the sun and the wind to create the conditions necessary for a comfortable life. Nature was their laboratory, where they conducted their vital experiments every day. Wet clothing also served as protection against fine dust and sand, which were constantly swirling in the desert air. The wet fabric acted as a filter, preventing solid particles from reaching the pores of the skin and the respiratory tract. This helped avoid irritations and infections that could arise in unsanitary conditions and heat. The Apaches valued bodily cleanliness, understanding that clogged pores hindered sweat evaporation and led to rapid overheating. They regularly performed cleansing rituals, taking advantage of any available opportunity at the rare oases. Hygiene was not merely a habit for them, but a vital component of their overall survival strategy. This unique approach to cooling demonstrates the incredible adaptability of the human body to extreme conditions. The Apache did not attempt to change the climate. They altered their interaction with it, using simple and accessible means. Their experience shows that knowledge of the laws of nature gives a person unlimited power over circumstances. They were free to move about because they did not depend on cumbersome equipment or complex technologies. Their strength lay in simplicity, lightness, and a deep understanding of the processes taking place around them. This was the true freedom of people who had become part of the vast and harsh Sonoran Desert. Like this video if you were impressed by the Apache's ingenuity in battling the relentless heat. Your support helps us create even higher quality content and share stories about the forgotten technologies of antiquity. Every like you give is a contribution to the growth of our community of history and tradition enthusiasts. We strive to show the world as the great warriors of the past saw it, without embellishment or fiction. Stay with us because there is still much more to discover about the lives of the indigenous peoples of North America. We value every viewer and strive to make our videos as informative and exciting as possible. What if I showed you a time machine that would transport us back to the days when the Apache people's rhythm of life was entirely governed by the movement of the stars? The main secret to their mobility was a radical shift in their usual daily routine. They understood that attempting to travel under the scorching sun meant voluntarily walking toward death. Therefore, all active pursuits, including long-distance treks, were carried out during the dark hours of the night. Night in the Sonoran Desert was a time of coolness, action, and absolute silence, when every sound carried for many kilometers. The Apaches became nocturnal creatures, seeing in the dark and navigating by the faintest glimmers of the moon. As the sun set, the Apache camp instantly came to life, but this activity was quiet and focused. Warriors checked their gear, tightened the straps of their sandals, and filled their flasks with water from hidden reservoirs. Traveling at night required special skill in navigating by the constellations and the distinctive silhouettes of the mountains on the horizon. They knew the position of every star and used them as a celestial map for their movements. In the cool of the night, the body functioned much more efficiently, without wasting energy fighting external overheating. This allowed them to cover distances in a single night that the cavalry could not cover in 2 days. Silence was a prerequisite for a night march, so as not to reveal their presence to possible patrols or ambushes. The Apaches knew how to tread so softly that even dry branches beneath their feet made not a single sound. They moved in a chain, where each successive warrior precisely followed the footsteps of the one ahead, creating the illusion of a single person moving. This tactic turned them into invisible shadows gliding among the cacti and rocks in the ghostly starlight. The night wind helped mask the sounds of their footsteps and carried away scents that vigilant enemies might detect. Nature once again acted as their ally, providing ideal conditions for covert maneuvering. With the first signs of dawn, the Apache's activity began to rapidly fade, giving way to the silence of the day. As soon as the sun rose above the horizon, they were already in a pre-selected hiding place. This was a time for deep rest, when every muscle had to completely relax in the coolness of an earthen pit. They had learned to fall asleep instantly, entering a state resembling deep meditation or suspended animation. Sleep during the day was vital for restoring the nervous system after a strenuous nighttime trek. This division of time into periods of activity and rest was the foundation of their longevity and endurance. During nighttime treks, they used special signals mimicking the calls of nocturnal birds or animals to communicate over long distances. This allowed them to coordinate the actions of several groups without using human speech, which might have sounded unnatural. The Apaches knew the voices of all the desert's inhabitants and could reproduce them with perfect accuracy. Such sounds did not arouse suspicion in casual listeners, as they were perceived as the ordinary sounds of Sonora's nightlife. This art of sound camouflage was yet another element of their complex system of invisibility. They literally blended into the living world of the desert, becoming an integral part of it. This lifestyle allowed the Apaches to always stay one step ahead of their pursuers, who were accustomed to a daytime routine. While the army sweltered in the heat inside their tents, the Apaches rested in cool burrows, and at night swiftly moved deeper into the territory. This asymmetry in the use of time was their strategic advantage in the protracted wars for their independence. They won battles without even engaging in open combat, simply wearing down the enemy with its own inefficiency. The desert and time worked in their favor, turning every obstacle into their own weapon. It was a triumph of intellect and patience over brute force and outdated regulations. How difficult do you think it would be for a modern person to switch day and night in their life? Could you remain productive working only by the light of the moon and stars? This question touches on the deep mechanisms of our biology and habits formed over centuries. The Apaches proved that mental flexibility is more important than physical limitations. In the next chapter, you'll learn how they coped with those extreme temperature swings without modern clothing. Are you ready to discover new details about how the Apaches stayed warm on freezing desert nights? Apache clothing was the result of centuries of evolution and a deep understanding of the laws of thermoregulation. It differed significantly from the heavy uniforms of European soldiers, which in desert conditions became a veritable instrument of torture. The main principle of their attire was layering and the use of natural, breathable materials. Thin suede made from deer or antelope hide served as the ideal base for their loincloths and shirts. This leather was incredibly soft, durable, and possessed a unique ability to protect against the sun without overheating the body. The Apaches knew that loose-fitting clothing creates an air pocket that acts as a natural insulator. The leather used for clothing underwent a complex, multi-step treatment process using natural oils and smoke. This made the material resistant to moisture and prevented it from hardening after getting wet from sweat or occasional rain. The clothing remained flexible for a long time, without restricting the warrior's movements while running or fighting. The Apache often adorned their outfits with fringe, which served not only a decorative but also a practical purpose. Long leather strips help better wick away heat and moisture from the body's surface during movement. This was an example of how aesthetics and functionality merged into a single, perfect tool for survival. Apache headwear often consisted of simple headbands that held the hair in place and prevented sweat from getting into the eyes. The hair itself served as an excellent natural insulator, protecting the head from direct sunlight. The Apache never cut their hair short, understanding the value of this natural protective layer given to them by nature. On cold nights, they used capes made from the thick, furred skins of animals, which retained heat exceptionally well. These capes were compact and easily folded, taking up little space in their modest gear. And Apache's clothing was his mobile home, providing protection in a wide variety of weather conditions. Interestingly, the Apache knew how to use even plant fibers to make items for their wardrobe. Yucca and agave provided strong strands from which they wove sandals for particularly hot periods or baskets for carrying loads. These materials were abundant and did not require complex tools to process. Plant-based clothing was lightweight, inexpensive, and highly breathable, making it indispensable during the peak of the summer heat. The Apache were masters at utilizing the full range of natural resources available in their environment. They viewed every plant as a potential source of material for improving their living conditions. They understood the importance of clean clothing for maintaining proper heat exchange and preventing skin diseases. A leather shirt soiled with grease and dust ceased to allow air to pass through, which could lead to overheating of the body. Therefore, the Apache regularly cleaned their gear using sand and special plant roots with soapy properties. Caring for clothing was an important daily ritual that ensured the durability and effectiveness of their gear. Attention to detail allowed them to maintain high combat readiness for many months away from permanent settlements. Cleanliness was the key to a warrior's health and endurance in the harsh climate of Sonora. Their experience shows that simplicity and closeness to nature often yield better results than complex technical solutions. The Apaches were living proof that the human mind is capable of finding a way out of any situation, using only what lies at their feet. Sonora was their cradle, and their clothing, reliable armor forged by the wisdom of generations. These traditions live on in the memory of the people, reminding them of the greatness of their ancestors. How do you build a house that cools itself without electricity or fans? The traditional Apache dwelling, known as a wigwam, was a masterpiece of folk architecture, perfectly adapted to desert conditions. It was a lightweight, dome-shaped structure consisting of a frame made of flexible branches and a covering of grass, bark, or animal skins. The wigwam didn't just provide shelter from the sun, it was designed to ensure constant air circulation inside. Its shape and materials allowed it to stay pleasantly cool inside, even during the hours when everything outside was literally melting from the heat. It was a temporary but highly effective shelter that could be erected in a matter of hours. The framework of a wicap consisted of willow branches or other flexible shrubbery, which were driven into the ground in a circle and tied together at the top to form a sturdy dome. This shape had excellent aerodynamics, allowing the wind to flow freely around the dwelling without destroying it. A covering of bundles of dry grass or shrub branches created a porous structure that acted as a natural filter. Air penetrated through microscopic holes in the walls, cooling as it passed through the shaded layer of vegetation. This created the effect of a constant, gentle breeze that carried away excess heat and refreshed the interior space. The Apache knew the secret of natural ventilation long before the advent of modern building codes. The location of the wigwam on the terrain was also chosen with the utmost care to take advantage of natural barriers and shade. The Apache tried to place their dwellings in the shade of tall cliffs or in dense thickets of shrubs, where the sun appeared only briefly. They took into account the direction of prevailing winds so that the entrance to the dwelling was always on the leeward side. This prevented hot sand and dust from entering during frequent desert storms. The wikia was part of the tribe's overall strategy of invisibility. It was difficult to spot among the natural vegetation of Sonora. The dwelling seemed to grow out of the earth itself, remaining modest and functional. Building materials were always nearby, which made the Apache incredibly mobile. If necessary, they could quickly leave their camp without regret for the abandoned structures and erect new ones in a new location. This lack of attachment to permanent structures was their advantage in conditions of constantly shifting hunting grounds and warfare. Nature itself provided them with building materials, which, after use, return to the ecosystem without causing any harm. The Wiki app was a symbol of the harmonious coexistence of humans and nature, where architecture merely complemented the landscape. It was an example of eco-friendly construction that was centuries ahead of its time. Interestingly, the Apache used different types of wigwams for the various climatic zones across their vast territory. In the mountains, the structures were more squat and sturdy to withstand strong winds and cold. In the desert lowlands, tall and light structures with good visibility and ventilation prevailed. This diversity of architectural forms demonstrates the Apache's deep understanding of the physics of their environment. They knew how to adapt their dwellings to any of nature's whims, remaining safe and relatively comfortable. Each tribe contributed its own unique details to the design, creating a rich palette of folk-building traditions. Do you think modern architects could create something similar using only natural materials? Share your thoughts on how relevant the principles of the Wika Appa are to modern, eco-friendly housing. In the next chapter, you'll learn how the Apache used sand as insulation. Are you ready to continue our journey into the world of the ancient warriors' amazing survival technologies? For the Apache, the sand of the Sonoran Desert was not just an obstacle, but a versatile tool for temperature control. They knew that the upper layers of sand could heat up to temperatures causing instant burns, while deeper down it remained consistently cool. The Apache used this property to preserve food and maintain their body temperature. The sand acted as a giant energy storage unit, absorbing the sun's heat during the day and slowly releasing it into the cool night sky. Understanding these cycles allowed warriors to precisely time their rest periods and movements. They could read the sand's heat as easily as we read a thermometer. During the day, the sand served as reliable protection against direct heat radiation, if one knew how to use it properly. The Apaches could burrow into the sand to a shallow depth in the shade of the rocks, creating a cool cocoon around themselves. This allowed them to remain motionless for many hours without overheating or losing excess moisture. Fine grains of sand filled the space between the body and clothing, creating an additional layer of insulation. It was important to choose a spot where the sand wasn't deeply heated. These were usually areas under overhangs or in narrow gorges. This method of resting required particular patience and the ability to control one's physiological processes. Greetings, the Apaches also used sand to cook food without an open fire. They dug a pit, filled it with sand heated by the sun, and placed cactus fruits or meat inside. The pit was covered with a layer of earth, and after a few hours, the food was ready, simmering in its own juices at a steady temperature. This method preserved all nutrients and conserved water, as the food did not come into contact with dry air. The absence of smoke made this process completely undetectable to those around them, which was critically important in wartime conditions. The sand served as their natural oven, powered by free solar energy. The Apaches used the sandstorms that frequently occurred in Sonora to cover their tracks. They knew the wind patterns and planned their raids so that dust and sand would instantly obscure their path. This made pursuing them virtually impossible for anyone unfamiliar with the laws of air movement. The Apaches knew how to find shelter, even in the very center of a raging sandstorm, using the contours of the terrain and their Wiki Appas. They viewed the sand as their ally, always ready to come to the aid of a knowledgeable person. The element was not an enemy to them, but a powerful tool in their complex tactical game. They understood that sand could also be dangerous if its properties were not taken into account at different times of the year. In the spring, the sand could hide moisture after rare rains, and in the fall, it became completely dry and loose. The Apaches taught their children to distinguish between types of sand by the sound underfoot and by its color in the rays of the setting sun. This knowledge helped them avoid quicksand and find the firmest trails for running fast. The sand was their chronicle, from which they read the history of the movements of animals and people. Every hollow or ridge of a dune had its own significance in their complex system of spatial orientation. Life in the sands required the Apaches to keep their equipment impeccably clean, as fine dust could disable any mechanism. They carefully maintained the cleanliness of their bows and arrows, wrapping them in special, soft leather cases. A single grain of sand getting into the bowstring could cause it to snap at the most critical moment. The Apaches were meticulous about weapon maintenance, understanding that their lives depended on the reliability of their tools. This discipline and attention to detail allowed them to remain effective in an environment that destroyed everything artificial and complex. The sand was both their trial and their reward. The organization of an Apache camp was governed by strict rules designed to ensure safety and conserve resources. In the face of constant threat in an extreme climate, every member of the tribe knew exactly their place and their duties. The social structure was flexible, yet incredibly effective, based on mutual trust and discipline. Leadership in the camp belonged to the most experienced warriors, whose wisdom had been tested by years of survival in the desert. Silence was the primary law of Apache life, which no one was permitted to break under any circumstances. The camp had to remain invisible and inaudible to the outside world. The layout of the dwellings in the camp was chosen to ensure maximum visibility of the surroundings and the ability to retreat quickly. The wigwams were placed at a certain distance from one another to avoid large crowds gathering in one place. This reduced the risk of detection and allowed each family to maintain a degree of autonomy in daily life. Paths between dwellings were planned along hard surfaces that left no traces. The Apache were masters at creating ghost camps that could vanish in a matter of minutes without a trace. This mobility was their main advantage in the fight against superior enemy forces. Resources such as water and food were distributed according to the needs of each tribe member. The Apache practiced principles of collective responsibility, where a successful hunter shared his catch with everyone. This ensured the survival of even the weakest and guaranteed support in difficult times. Thirst and hunger were endured together, which strengthened bonds within the group and boosted overall morale. Rational consumption was the foundation of their economy, which excluded any excess or waste. Every sip of water was valued higher than gold and distributed with the utmost fairness. Women played a key role in organizing the camp's daily life and raising the younger generation. They were the keepers of knowledge about medicinal plants and methods of food preparation under extreme conditions. It was the women who built the wigwams and maintained them, ensuring comfort and warmth for the warriors. Their contribution to the tribe's survival was invaluable, and they were held in the highest regard within Apache society. A woman's social status was determined by her skills and her ability to sustain life under the harshest conditions. It was a society of equal opportunity where everyone worked for the common good. Special attention was paid to preserving knowledge and traditions through oral storytelling and rituals. In the evenings, when the heat subsided, the elders told stories about their people's heroic past and the wisdom of their ancestors. These stories were not merely entertainment, but an important tool for character building and the transmission of tactical experience. The Apache camp was a living organism, constantly changing and adapting to new challenges. They were not afraid of change and were ready at any moment to move in search of better conditions. This dynamism and lack of attachment to material things made them elusive and invincible. They lived in the here and now, trusting completely in their land and their fellow tribesmen. Sonora was their great home, whose boundaries were defined only by their endurance and will. The tribe's social structure was a perfect reflection of the harsh and beautiful nature of the desert. Traveling through the Sonoran Desert at night required phenomenal navigation and orientation skills from the Apache. With no roads or recognizable landmarks, they charted their course with mathematical precision. Their main compass was the night sky, studded with bright stars that seemed incredibly close in the clear desert air. The Apache knew the position of every constellation and understood how it changed depending on the season and the hour of the night. The stars were their celestial beacons, pointing the way to distant water sources or hidden mountain passes. The ability to read the sky was a vital skill for every Apache warrior. They used the North Star as their primary reference point for determining north, planning their routes relative to this fixed point. Other constellations help them determine the exact time needed to plan stops and calculate their arrival time at their destination. The Apache could calculate the angular distance between stars using the fingers of an outstretched hand, which gave them highly accurate measurements. The night sky was a vast clock face for them, against which they checked every step they took. This connection to the cosmos gave them a sense of confidence in the boundless expanse of the desert. They never felt lost as long as the stars shone overhead. The Apache's night trails were never straight. They meandered, following the contours of the terrain and utilizing natural cover. This made their paths unpredictable to any pursuer and allowed them to avoid ambushes. The warriors knew how to move along rocky ridges where no tracks remained and where visibility was maximized. They used the shadows cast by the rocks at night to remain invisible to casual observers. Stealth was more important than speed, and the Apaches could wait for hours in the darkness before taking their next step. Each of their nights was filled with the quiet, tense work of conquering the terrain. To transmit messages between groups at night, they used light signals from small, carefully concealed campfires. The Apaches knew how to direct the beam of light in the desired direction, using pieces of leather or bark as reflectors. These flashes were brief and imperceptible to anyone who wasn't expecting to see them in a specific location. Smoke signals by day and light signals by night formed their effective long-distance communication system. They could transmit information about enemy movements over tens of kilometers in a matter of minutes. This information network made them incredibly well-informed about the situation throughout the entire Sonora region. Navigating the desert also required knowledge of the behavior of local animals, which were also active at night. The migration routes of deer or antelopes often indicated the most convenient mountain passes and the locations of hidden watering holes. The Apaches followed the animals, trusting their instincts and centuries of survival experience in these parts. They knew the habits of every animal and could predict its reaction to their presence. Nature was their guide, revealing its secrets only to those who knew how to listen and observe. Interaction with the animal world was an integral part of their navigation strategy. The Apache night marches were a demonstration of their absolute superiority over all who feared the darkness and the desert. They transformed the night from a time of fear into a time of strength and freedom, becoming the true masters of Sonora. Their ability to find their way by the stars and shadows remains one of the most impressive chapters in the history of human survival. The starry sky was not merely a picture to the Apaches, but a living guide to action, leading them through trials to victory. Every night they endured was a testament to their unyielding spirit and sharp minds. The Apaches' incredible endurance in the extreme conditions of the desert was the result not only of their skills, but also of deep physiological adaptation. Over time, their bodies adjusted to the harsh rhythm of life, learning to use every calorie and every drop of moisture as efficiently as possible. The Apache metabolism was tuned to a mode of extreme resource conservation, allowing them to remain active on minimal nutrition. They possessed a unique ability to quickly recover their strength after extreme exertion, using short periods of rest. This inner biological resilience was their main advantage in the struggle for survival. Their bodies were literally forged by the sun and wind of Sonora. The Apache diet was based on foods found in the desert and was perfectly balanced to sustain endurance. The main sources of carbohydrates and fluids were cactus fruits, such as saguaro and prickly pear, which were harvested during specific seasons. These fruits contain many vitamins and minerals necessary for muscle and heart function in hot conditions. The Apache also ate the seeds and roots of various plants, which were highly nutritious. Meat was obtained by hunting deer, antelope, and small rodents, providing the body with essential proteins. Every meal was a deliberate act of replenishing energy, not merely satisfying hunger. The Apache demonstrated particular skill in the art of managing thirst and the rational consumption of water. They trained their bodies to make do with small amounts of moisture, drinking it in small sips at regular intervals. It is known that the Apache would hold a small pebble in their mouths to stimulate saliva production and reduce the sensation of dryness. They knew all the hidden water sources, including those deep beneath the sand in the beds of dried-up rivers. The ability to find water where no one else could see it was their sacred secret. They viewed water as the blood of the earth, demanding the utmost respect and conservation. Their physical condition was close to perfection. They were lean, sinewy, and possessed incredible reflexes. The lack of excess fat helped their bodies cool more efficiently and reduce the strain on the heart during long treks. The Apaches could run dozens of kilometers across rough terrain without showing signs of severe fatigue. Their respiratory system was developed to saturate the blood with oxygen as efficiently as possible while minimizing moisture loss from the lungs. Every movement was precise and economical, eliminating any waste of energy. They were the ideal desert athletes, created by nature itself to thrive in extreme conditions. The Apaches raised their children in harsh conditions, accustoming them to deprivation and hardship from a very early age. The games played by the youth were designed to develop strength, agility, and stealth. It was a school of life where the only test was survival itself in the sands of Sonoran. From childhood, every Apache understood that his body was his primary tool, requiring constant care and training. The cult of physical perfection and endurance was the foundation of their culture and worldview. They took pride in their ability to endure what seemed impossible for other peoples. The Apache's adaptation to the Sonoran Desert is the greatest example of the human body's resilience and its capacity for transformation. They proved that a person can thrive in the harshest conditions if they are willing to change and learn from nature. Their metabolism, diet, and way of life formed a single, harmonious system that ensured their victory in the eternal battle against the sun. The history of the Apache is a hymn to life that finds its way even in the scorching sand and arid rocks. Their legacy continues to inspire those who seek answers to questions about the limits of human potential. They will forever remain the tigers of the human race, born in the very heart of the desert. We conclude our journey into the world of the amazing technologies and wisdom of the Apache people, who made the Sonoran Desert their home. These people prove that true strength lies not in subjugating nature, but in a deep understanding of its laws and the ability to harmoniously adapt to its harsh rhythms. Their story of survival is a lesson for all of us about the importance of maintaining calm, resourcefulness, and respect for the world around us in any circumstances. The Apaches have left us a rich legacy of knowledge that serves as a reminder of the incredible resilience and flexibility of the human spirit. Their methods of cooling, navigation, and organizing daily life remain an example of ingenious simplicity and efficiency. What aspect of their daily life or survival tactics surprised you the most? Perhaps it was their ability to sleep underground or their unique daily schedule, which turned night into a time of active engagement. Suggest topics for future videos you'd like to see on our channel in the comments. Your opinion is very important to us. Subscribe to our channel to continue exploring the most exciting and forgotten pages of human history with us. Stay tuned, because there are still many great discoveries and amazing stories ahead about people who didn't know the meaning of the word impossible. Until we meet again in the vast expanse of history and great discoveries.